Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie, and hope you're all well. How's your Monday been? You know what Mondays are like. Today's a Monday. Um, it's not been that bad to be honest, but I have got a little glass of vino tinto, so it is true crime with a glass of wine tonight. After being on the wagon for quite a long time. Cheers. Not for any particular reason, just a long day. That's it, really. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so, do you know what's really strange is whenever I do a live, I've gone through more perfume since I started doing YouTube lives than I've ever used. But I always have a squirt of perfume. What's that about? So before I actually start my live, I always have a little squirt of perfume. What's the point in it? I just don't even know why, but I always do it. Anyway, so tonight we are going to talk about Rachel Morin. I watched a very interesting YouTube video about the case, about the scene where Rachel was, where her life was taken away. Any of you, again, my followers, you'll know we've been following this Rachel Morin case since August last year. That's when it first happened. Rachel went out, like so many women do, went out to walk on the Maranpar Trail in Maryland, and was, brutally murdered. And the perpetrator of that act still hasn't been found, despite the fact that they have his DNA, etc. And they have his DNA because his DNA was found at another scene right over the other side of America, on a hat that he left behind, in a house that we still don't know the full details, really, of what happened there. But that the sheriff in Maryland, who's dealing with this case, has said that could quite easily have ended up being just the same as what happened to Rachel. So we're dealing with, if not already a serial killer, but just maybe not been caught, definitely a prospective serial killer. This guy is not going to stop what he did to Rachel. He may have done it again since then. The thing is, they have his DNA, so you would think that if he has done it again, they would have linked it up, but, it's... Now, recently, there's been a very similar murder, but in Georgia, of a young girl who, again, was just jogging around the trail near the University of Georgia, where she's a student nurse. And, they're saying so far they don't think that the two cases are related. That they have got, the good thing is they have arrested somebody there, or they have a suspect in custody. He's from Venezuela, whereas Rachel Morin's killer is also Hispanic. They found from his DNA that he's Hispanic descent, but they reckon it's not him. Whether they've done all the proper tests yet or not, I don't know. And actually, it's talked about in this YouTube video that I'm going to show you, that we're going to watch together. He is talked about as well, and the possibility that he may be Rachel's killer as well. It's certainly a very similar circumstance, lying in wait for someone, it looks like. The more we find out about the Rachel Morin murder, it sounds like she may well have been targeted. She may well have been waited for on the trail. He was certainly waiting for someone. We're talking about a guy who, it seems like, from what we know of him, he knows the trail very well. He knows the area very well. Rachel's murder happened a few months after the incident in Los Angeles. So he may have gone over to the other side of America to sort of, you know, get away from what he knew he'd done there. But those of us who've seen the video of him leaving the house there, he didn't seem to be in any rush, in any hurry. He didn't seem to be bothered. He seemed to be quite happy that, you know, he wasn't going to get pursued. But anyway, we're going to watch that video. So what I'm going to do first of all is say hello to everybody. So thank you all for being here. As always, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, or for putting your fingerprint on the like button. And also thank you to all my members. Thank you to anyone who's sent me a super, bought me a coffee, you know, supported my channel in any way. Anyone who sent me an email. People email me all the time with suggestions for cases or articles that they think are appropriate to cases that I'm covering. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's say hello. So Chumba was first. Chumba. We know that the world is, you know, the world is on its axis properly when Chumba is first. Hi, Kelly. Kelly, of course, you're in Australia. I don't think there's any news at the moment about the Samantha Mutphy case, you know, which is the case that I've been covering. I want to thank everybody who's become a subscriber for my coverage of that case and the emails that I've received. And everyone's been so nice. I mean, really, it's so lovely. You know, I've noticed, I said before, on the Facebook groups, etc., everyone's really nice to each other. Everyone's united in finding Samantha. You know, there's not this sort of animosity that seemed to, seemed to be in place over the Nicola Bulley case, and sort of still is to some point. Nicola Bulley was another case, you know, in the UK. But anyway, I'm still going to do more on that case. I'm just not doing anything on it at the moment because I'm preparing the first episode of a docuseries that I'm going to do on it. But also, sometimes it's a relief not to cover it because the nastiness around that case is unbelievable. Now, I haven't found that with Samantha's case. Everyone's united. Everyone wants Samantha to be brought home for her children, even though it's not looking very positive now that she will be brought home safe and well. But the important thing is that she's just brought home and her children get some sort of closure. Closure is not even the right word, is it? But they need to know what's happened to their mum. And there seems to be much more of a sort of community spirit in that sense. You know, there's not been the same nastiness and trolling that was always the case with the Nicola Bulley case. Anyway, sorry, I'm waffling on as usual. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Maria. Hi, David. David, have you put your fingerprint on that like button? Hi, DMV. Hi, Mello. Hi, Heather. Hi, Catherine. Oh, thank you, DMV. You're so kind. Yes, bottoms up. Arriba, abaco, centro, dentro. It's been a long time. I've missed you. Vino Tinto, I've missed you. Yes, Heather, if you had smell-o-vision, you would smell Michael Kors perfume. Hi, Moonraven. Hi, Charlie. Hope you're feeling better. Hi, Katrine. Hi, Pauline. Well, I've gone through a whole bottle since January, you know, because the more videos that I do, the more perfume, the more lives that I do. I don't put perfume on to do normal videos, but if I'm doing a live, I always put a spray of perfume. Hi, Pauline. I think I said hello to Pauline. See, when I start talking, then I get distracted and I forget who I've said hello to. Our community is so nice, isn't it? Hi, Tracy. Oh, Charlie must be better because he's telling us what he's had to eat. So he's had a bread roll with pimientos, bacalao, which is cod, and 2 soft-boiled eggs with soldiers. Oh, he's so sweet. Bread roll, pimientos, bacalao, do you mean? And 2 soft-boiled eggs with soldiers. Gosh, it's been ages since I've had boiled eggs with soldiers. I might have to have some for breakfast now. Okay, so first thing I want to show you before we get going on this video. Now, this is quite profound, I think. I've shown it before, I should say. But I want to show it again. And this is Rachel's brother. Because the reason why we think, everybody thinks, that... oh, thank you, Mella. That's so nice. The reason that everybody thinks is that this twonk who murdered Rachel knew the area is because on the trail where Rachel was sort of snatched from, if you like, there are 2 tunnels. And the thing is, unless you knew that trail, you would not even see those tunnels. You would not even know they were there. You know, you'll see in the video that we're about to watch, one of the people on it says he's walked there loads of times and never knew these tunnels were there. And this horrible person seemed to wait for Rachel till she got near these sort of tunnels, then dragged her into one of the tunnels out of the way of other people walking by. And he must have known they were there. So he knew the area. He hadn't just turned up there that day. Now, there's quite a lot of homeless encampments in that area. So he could have been living in one of them, or he could have known someone in the area, who knows. But anyway, he definitely knew about the tunnels that most people wouldn't know about, and especially in August, because when this happened in August, the foliage, you know, what's like in the summer, there's a lot of, there's a lot of leaves and things like that. So it's all covered over. So you would not know they were there except if you knew the area. Now, it's interesting what you're saying there, David. Did Michael, because we saw Michael being interviewed. Now, I saw when the Daniel Cavalcanti manhunt was going on, and JLR covered that, and Michael was there as well. And JLR asked Michael if he knew that man, and he said no, but who knows? But anyway, maybe he did recognize, maybe he did recognize him. Who knows? Because until we won't know anything, till this guy is caught, we won't find out, the real story of what happened. But anyway, so first of all, I just want to show you this video again, which I just find very profound. And this is what we always have to remember, because, we talk about true crime, but these are families that are affected. These are real people. True crime is true crime. It's not an Agatha Christie mystery on the telly or Poirot or whatever. These are real people, real families that are being impacted. And I just find this is one of Rachel's brothers who went to the scene, and this is the video.
This is this final resting place of Rachel in this tunnel. Kind of looks like a sewer. I think about her laying here, and I wonder if she was, half awake, looking at the light and just saying, I just got to make it to that light. She thinking about her kids. She thinking about me. Did she feel hopeless here? Think about warm, feeling warm under her head, and then making the connection. That's blood. It's dark. You feel alone. It's not. Think about like what she looked like, you know, beaten or whatever. It's like still pretty. I don't care how dirty, how scary, how she felt. I wish I could feel it for her. And I won't look away. That's kind of why I'm spending so much time in these tunnels, this tunnel specifically.
So, yeah, very profound. And I think that sort of makes us realise, the reality of this and how it affects families. I suspect her brother is in just agony. All of them are. It's bad enough. Until this guy is actually caught, that will give them some peace. I'm 100% certain that will give them some peace, knowing that that piece of crap is sort of off the streets and being arrested. Now, her brother, he's going to be in this video that we're going to watch as well. So both her brother and also her first husband, her ex-husband, who they had an excellent relationship, is in this video that we're going to look at. So they're trying their best. Everybody deals with things in different ways. We've talked about this before. I think for some people who go through a loss, and particularly struck, and it's a video that I haven't done yet, of the Soham murders of Holly and Jessica. Holly's parents, well, her father in particular, he sort of seemed to cope with it by writing a book, trying to do, he had to be involved, and whereas Jessica's parents did not want to speak to the media or have anything to do with the media. Everybody deals with things in their own way. And Rachel's brother and her first husband, I think part of the way they've dealt with it is appearing on having interviews like with news channels. This case, it's a YouTube channel, but with a respectable YouTuber. Those kind of things. So some people react by sort of hiding away and just being private, and other people, their way of coping with it is trying to get the word out as much as possible, and that's their way of coping with it. So we all deal with things in a different way, don't we? Hi Wendy. Hi Amanda Jane. Oh, are you still feeling Wendy's still feeling poorly? Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so let's have a look at the video that we're going to look at. Now, this YouTuber, I can find... I have showed his YouTube before. I think he allows you to show his YouTube as long as you give him the credit, obviously. Let me just take it back to the beginning. Let me just take it off. Ooh. So, this video is about the crime scene in particular. Let me just...
In my opinion, it was planned.
I need to get the description. So this is the channel is called The Interview Room. As I say, we have looked at one of his interviews before, or one of his videos before. So this is Chris McDonough. I follow him on Twitter as well. He's very interesting. He used to be a policeman. He used to be a detective. Let's have a look. Let me just read his about. So join me, Chris McDonough, a retired homicide detective, as we unravel the darkest corners of human behaviour one interview at a time. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I always say that. But I've learned the whispers of the mind are just as revealing. With decades spent staring into the abyss, I've seen monsters masquerading as men and angels stained by sin. You know, at the we just know from what we watch on, you know, about true crime. You know, they walk amongst us. These people, this man who's murdered Rachel, he'd be somebody's son, somebody's brother, maybe somebody's boyfriend, maybe even somebody's father. You know, because although he's quite youngish, but he could well have children. You know, they walk amongst us. They're normal people. They're not, you know, even Ted Bundy said they're not gibbering monsters who come out sort of slavering and, you know, like werewolves or whatever. The people that do these horrible things, they're your next door neighbour. You know, they're your average Joe in the street, etc. So behind every closed case lies a story, a life silenced, a family yearning for answers. My mission is to give voice to the voiceless, chase ghosts through the halls of unsolved cases, and bring the cold embers of justice back to life. And alongside me is my partner in truth-seeking, my wife Karen, and an award-winning investigative journalist whose pen cuts through the fog of lies. Together we unravel the threads of mystery, one heart-wrenching case at a time. Let's make true crime a force for good. The thing is, true crime is a force for good. There's a positivity with true crime. It's not all it's not all ghoulishness. And, you know, people take an interest in true crime for reasons, you know, for different reasons. As you all know, the ones that know me, the reason I've taken an interest in true crime from years ago was because of you know, a lot of people, it's because they're a victim of crime, you know, or stalking in my case, but lots of people are victims of domestic abuse or victims of something, or they've seen something in their lives. That's why people take an interest in true crime, because they know that, you know, this is things that happen to real people. And my own belief is once you take an interest in true crime, it's hard to sort of go back and watch some stupid program like some TV series about, you know, drama series about, because you sit there and watch it and you know what's going to happen from day one. I don't know if you just get this instinct or whether that's just being an empath. I don't know. But right from the first episode, you think, oh, he did it or she did it or it was them. And it's so predictable, you know, and even my son said that, and he's not interested in crime, true crime, nothing, none of it. He has absolutely no interest, but sometimes dramas that he's seen advertised on the TV, and he'll say, why is it always the same story? You know, like you just can practically predict what's going to happen. But true crime, of course, you can't predict what's going to happen. The most sort of, you just, you know, it's like batshit, sorry, excuse my French, batshit crazy sometimes, isn't it? Where the stories that you just think that cannot possibly be true, but oh yes, it is true. So this is him. This is Chris McDonough. I'm subscribed. I don't know. I think I've got all my notifications on. For those of you who sometimes say you don't get notifications, when you subscribe, you have to make sure the bell is pressed for all notifications. If you don't want notifications, you just press none, and then you won't get notifications. And you just, when you think, oh, I haven't seen a video from Vicky Marie for a while, you just go in and have a look and you'll see whatever you've missed. But not everyone wants notifications. You know, sometimes it's annoying if you keep getting beeps or whatever. I understand that. But anyway, so if you're interested in true crime, I would recommend that you go over and subscribe to Chris McDonough on the Interview Room. So this is the one we're going to look at. This is the video we're going to look at, which is a live that he did after the suspect sketch was released and some new information. and he's got a couple of the family members. So he's got Matthew McMahon on there. Matthew is the father of one of Rachel's daughters, the oldest daughter, and Rachel's brother Michael Morin, as we saw then in the tunnel, he's on as well. And along with Dr. Gary Brucato, who I'm not really sure, to be perfectly honest, who he is. But so this is the video we're going to look at. I want to give him credit for his video, but go back on there because, you know, if you're interested in true crime, obviously there's lots of videos on there. There's quite a lot about Summer Wells on there, because it was actually him who went to Candace's house and she showed him around the house. You know, so there's a few things. Brian Koberger, the Murdoch family, Suzanne Morphew. You know, there's a bit of everything on there. But we're going to look at this video.
A retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome.
Now, it's quite a long video. I'm not going to, I'll probably every now and again I might jump forward a little bit. But this, I've watched most of it. I haven't watched all of it because, as I say, it's quite a long video, but it's very interesting. The insights about the tunnel and the area, you know, and that this guy definitely 100% knew this area. And if he wasn't actually waiting for Rachel herself, which he may well have been doing, he was you know, waiting for somebody to come along near the tunnel. He'd already panned out that he was going to do whatever he was going to do, take them into the tunnel, you know, disable them in some way, then take them into the tunnel where he'd have a bit of privacy. He definitely had it all worked out, in my opinion. So let's see.
To the interview room.
Just move forward.
And friends to the victims. We are victim-centered. We are victim-centered at the Cold Case Foundation.
So he does a lot of work for the Cold Case Foundation, you know, which obviously, you know, the clues in the name, tries to find. I mean, I find cold cases very interesting as well. You know, now with DNA, now that we have the DNA, there must be so many people out there quaking in their boots. Lots of people have already been caught through DNA who had thought that they'd got away with murder, literally. You know, they'd probably sort of got into middle or even old age, thinking, oh, you know, I've got away with this. And now they're being caught because of DNA advances. So here we've got Michael Morin, one of Rachel's brothers. We've got Matthew McMahon, who's the father of Rachel's oldest child, Chris himself, and Dr. Gary Brucato, who is the author of this book, The New Evil, which I don't know much about that, but I will be looking into that.
As well as victim-centered here in the interview room. We only ask one thing, is that you hit that button that says subscribe, and unfortunately I even have to say that. But what's important about why you do that is because then you can send it off to all of your social media networks. And we encourage you always to share this information with everybody that you know.
Yeah, it's important, you know, because even for me, I might live in Spain, but you don't know who might be watching my videos, who lives in America. I've got subscribers all over the world. And it just might be one person who's looking at it and sees that picture and thinks, oh, he looks familiar. You know, so sharing is always important. I hope he doesn't steal my line or steal David's line of please put your fingerprint on the like button. But, you know, he's right what he's saying. You know, YouTube gets a sort of a down vibe, you know, oh, you know, people making money off YouTube and it's true crime. The thing is, people are interested in true crime. You're not going to, you know, people are interested in it, and you're not going to change that. There's no good saying people shouldn't be interested in it. They are. And if it wasn't for people being interested in true crime, if it wasn't for the public, a lot of crimes would not get solved. A lot of the time it is the public, especially in this digital age. Gabby Petito's body was found because of social media. So there's a lot of things that would not happen. Social media should be used for good, not just ignored or poo-pooed or, downplayed and treated badly. It can be used in a positive way. And anyone who, should understand that. So what you're saying is right. It's not wrong to subscribe to a channel that you feel is doing well. And also a lot of YouTubers, if they want to make an actual profession of it where they're doing that, everybody has to live. There's nothing wrong with, being paid money from YouTube. People have a choice whether to watch or not. So if people choose to watch YouTube, if they choose to be a member of someone's channel, they choose to send a super or a Ko-fi or whatever it is, they're choosing to do that. Nobody's making anybody do that. It's not, you can watch, the point of entry, YouTube is free. You sit and watch YouTube videos, you don't have to pay anything, only your internet, which you'd have anyway. So I don't understand, I honestly do not understand, to me, and if someone's doing well out of their YouTube videos or whatever, it's normally because they're working really hard and they've taken a lot, it's not because they've just sort of turned the computer on and, talk a load of rubbish and then that's it. And a lot of people find that out. That's what I found as well. A lot of the problems you get, the trolling that you get, is from some, a lot of the time from other creators. But when you look at their actual channels, etc., it's because they're not doing very well. So they get annoyed with other people who are doing quite well, even though the reason that they're doing quite well is because they're working really hard. I mean, look, he's pulled all these people together. And I found this video really, really interesting, informative, for understanding what had happened, and we will find that. What's wrong with that? People have to live. Nobody lives off fresh air. Everybody has to pay their bills one way or another. So either you want people to put in good content, or you don't. So, and I'm not talking to the people who are here watching me, certainly not the ones that are in the chat and my supporters. I'm talking to, there will be some people probably watching who don't like me or think, something bad of me. You think what you like, because I honestly don't care. So, sorry, I've gone off on a rant there. It doesn't take much, does it? One glass of wine and that's it. I'm off on a rant. So let's have a look.
Whether it's Twitter or, you name it. Just send it out there into the world and make people aware of the hunt for the killer of Rachel Morin. So remember, this man
has got to be caught. He's just got to be caught. I cannot believe he's not been caught.
The Hartford Sheriff's Department is the lead agency on this in Maryland, and we have to be sensitive.
Yes, remember to contact Jeff Gaylor, my sheriff, if you know anything. Sorry, it's just a joke, but I don't mean to make light of a serious thing. But, it is the sheriff's. Well, there are two departments that are dealing with this case. It's Jeff Gaylor at the Maryland Sheriff's Department who's dealing with particularly the Rachel Morin case. And then, of course, the police in Los Angeles, the LAPD, they're dealing with the incident in Los Angeles. So that has made it a little bit complicated as well, I think.
To them. So tonight, we are grateful that Matt's back with us, and of course, Michael, for the first time for us to meet him. And last night, Matt provided a tremendous amount of insight into Rachel, and he also shared some of her struggles in life, as well as her successes that she overcame, and she was able to turn a light on. As Dr. Gary says, Gary, what you're saying about the light in darkness?
Well, I don't remember exactly what you meant. I think what you're referring to is we were talking about how one of the very powerful things about this case is to think of Rachel and the offender as representing two sides of two ends of a spectrum, where two people that have experienced adverse experiences, one of them takes it out on people and becomes a kind of a cruel, horrendous human being who feels entitled and murderous and everything else, and the other channels it into strength and overcoming adversity.
Yeah, because you know what, Rachel, she hasn't had the easiest life. But everyone, why they're always such nice people, aren't they? That these awful things happen to. You know, this twunk, like he says, he's entitled. He thinks he has a right. He has a right to go off and ruin other people's lives. Whereas Rachel, you know, just tried to she brought positivity to the world, not negativity. And it's like you've got this opposite of light and dark sort of colliding on that day, you know, like had he stalked her before? Now, Sheriff Jeff Gaylor said he felt that she had been stalked. You know, they won't know for sure until they actually track him down, unless he'd been seen, you know, on other days watching her. Rachel was a very striking woman. Very beautiful. You would notice her, whether you're a man or a woman. If Rachel Morin walked past you, you would not forget her. You know, she was stunningly beautiful and very striking. And this twonk saw her, and he had, you know, instead of looking and appreciating, you know, a beautiful woman or whatever, he's got the bad thoughts about it. But then men like that, sometimes it doesn't, you know, their opportunity, it could be an opportunist. And if he's an opportunist, it wouldn't have mattered if it was Rachel Morin walking past or any woman, you know, but or he could have been watching her, but
and being kinder to people than perhaps life has been to them. And I think it says a lot about the character of Rachel, and the low character of the individual that we're dealing with here. Who, you know, so I think that I think that's what you're referring to.
Right. And so tonight, let's talk about some new details that came out. There's a podcast out. It's about 40 minutes long. You'll have that link below.
Now, we listened to that podcast, didn't we? That was the podcast by Sheriff Jeff, where they did release this new information that we'd not heard before, you know, information about the tunnel, information about him, that then it turned out that this home invasion, that in the beginning they were really trying to play down, saying it was not that serious, etc. Turns out it was serious, and he assaulted various people in that house. And not only that, but it's felt that if he would not have been stopped, if he would not have been caught, it would have ended up going the same way as what happened to Rachel. So these were all new things that came out in that podcast. Now, I think I might just fast forward a little bit, because we listened to the podcast. I'm going to just fast forward to the actual, when they're talking about the new
start out, or during the course of their period of offenses, break into houses and physically assault people without there being a clear sexual aspect to it. And the fact that it's an entire family is also unusual, because this idea of expressing domination and control through just using your fists, being explosive and violent with people, particularly if they're sleeping, happens it's very uncommon. And one case in which we saw that was Richard Ramirez, also a California-based offender, where the family was partially Mexican. They were of Mexican origin, and he had a father that was constantly going over the border for periods of time to work, and he was raised by a mother and had a kind of conflicted family dynamic going on. And the reason he's important to understand is that he was a guy who really started out breaking into houses with a mixed series of motives, partly to rob them, sometimes for sexual assault, and sometimes just to violently assault the people that were in there, often while they were asleep. And when we look at offenders like that, as I said, there are a few of them. For example, the serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells is very similar, that the ones who do this tend to have qualities in common. And one of the qualities they tend to have is that they're highly transient people that don't really live in one place. They don't know where to lay their head. That we find them moving all across the state or across the country. And the second quality, which I think is also reflected in the transients, is that they don't really have any sense of home. And as a consequence, are extremely envious of people who do. As a secondary motive for people like this, when you really sit them down and talk to them once they're incarcerated, is they experience an enormous envy of people that are happy in a home. And part of the motivation for them is to go in and basically introduce chaos, punish those people for having a nice, happy, normal life. So that what you have to understand.
So that's interesting, isn't it? What he's saying, that these people who do these sort of things, quite often they're transient, they move from place to place, which seems logical with this guy because, he's gone from literally from one end of America to the other to commit these crimes. And, what you're all saying there, I agree. He's got this on these photo fits. He's got this very young face. Now, they think he's between 28, 35 and 35. Now, the thing is, if he is transient, if he is moving around, maybe he is an illegal immigrant, maybe he hasn't got papers, so he's like a drifter. Maybe he's drifting from state to state and just, getting work where he can, who knows. But I just think, what with the back view of him there and the front view now that we've got, who could not recognise him if you knew him? Even if he was just a guy around my little village, I think I would recognise that face, even if it was a guy. But you see, he's very broad, isn't he? When you see the front view of him and his face looks so young, whereas the back view, I think he looks older because he's got those really broad shoulders. He looks very strong. And again, the haircut, people think the haircut's significant, thinking it might be military or this, that, or the other, but it is a fashionable haircut. It's a fashionable haircut that a lot of young people have. So it doesn't necessarily, this fade sort of cut, there's all different variations of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the military. You can bet $1 million he hasn't got that haircut now. He's probably, his hair's down to his shoulder now. He's probably got a beard, moustache, but he wouldn't be able to hide his ears, because I think his ears are quite distinctive. Now, another thing that I honestly did find strange right from the beginning, he has no tattoos. It's just so common for young people to have tattoos now. Even just one, my son's got one on his arm. He's not like, but most young people have got many more tattoos than that. He's got no tattoos. And I know that sounds funny, but I felt that might be significant. I mean, could that mean the military or police or, but then even they have tattoos these days. And, certainly if he was part of like drugs gangs or whatever, they've nearly always got tattoos, normally here, haven't they, around their neck. I think that's significant that he hasn't got tattoos. For a man of his age and also his ethnic background, the Hispanic background, why has he not got any tattoos? Honestly, strange these days to not have tattoos. It's more unusual to not have tattoos for a young man like that than to have tattoos. Anyway, that's just something that occurred to me.
And is that underneath whatever manifestation there is of either sexualized violence or just rage is a person who is sort of pathetic and doesn't really have a clear sense of belonging anywhere. And I think we're probably going to find that this is true of this individual too. And that's part of what's making this so difficult, is this lack of a clear home base is making him feel like somebody that can pretty much slither anywhere. But I do think that the clues are indicating that one way or another, he has some kind of base in LA. Now, the other thing that's important about the Ramirez case is that it was ultimately the public that stopped him. By saturation of the public with his image, you wound up having him on the front cover of newspapers, and some women in a store saw him in the store and started screaming in Spanish, "There's the monster." And some men basically subdued him, beat him, and kept him until the police came. And I would not be surprised if it is the public that also plays an enormous role here. So I think those points are important because it tells us something about the profile of the.
So that's interesting what he was saying, because we looked. I mean, I've somewhere on my channel. One day when I was doing a serial killer Sunday, we looked at the Night Stalker Richard Ramirez, and that was, yeah, you can see the similarities, because he just, he lived in the Cecil Hotel at times in LA. LA is a place where you can disappear, go into these sort of, there's a lot of homeless people there as well. You can. I don't personally. I don't think this guy normally is homeless, and the reason I don't think he's normally homeless is because he's too clean cut. He's too, I just don't think he is. I don't think he's on drugs. I don't think he's and again, he's got no tattoos. He's got no. I think there's something that we don't know about this guy. There's something almost in plain sight with him. He knows how to disappear. There's a reason for that. Is it to do with the church? Is he going is he hiding in the church? Peter Tobin hid, who's a serial killer, a Scottish serial killer who was in the UK. He hid in churches. He went and volunteered at churches. Now, I think on one of the videos that I did, they were saying that there was a church, not a church. How do I explain it? Like something associated with the church, where people would go and help out. He could be hiding somewhere like that, because they don't ask questions. They took Peter Tobin in, and he ended up murdering the poor girl who also was helping out at the church. Is it something to do with churches? Is he going to places where Catholics are welcomed? Especially, if he's going and sort of saying that he's homeless. I don't know. There's something about him. He's too clean cut. He's too well looked after to be completely homeless, I think. There's something more to this guy. There's something in plain sight that's just eluding people. Well, I say it's eluding. Maybe the police do have an idea, but knowing who he is and actually tracking him down are two different things, aren't they?
Individual, that you've got a home invasion quality. It also tells us that there's a person.
Oh, sorry, and I just wanted to add, because the attack that he did in Los Angeles, he broke in the middle of the night. This is what's coming out now as well. So, we were thinking, had he sort of just gate crashed a party or something? But no, he broke in the middle of the night, apparently, into a house where there's quite a lot of people living, and he had tried to attack a young girl in there, and luckily he was caught.
Person who was profoundly risk-taking, because it's a very unusual thing, to kind of break into somebody's house like that. But there's also the potential for there being a lot of people. If you haven't cased the place, you don't know who's in there. You could encounter a whole slew of people who pin you down. And finally, what I'll say is, now that this new information is out, is I can't help but believe that this was true with Ramirez too, that at least some of the people were sleeping at the time of the break-in. And this is extremely important, because we have to take the pieces of information we have and put them side by side between Maryland and what happened in LA. And in both cases, it appears that there's an assault on a person who is not conscious. In one case, there's somebody potentially sleeping, and the other, somebody who has been blitzed with some kind of rock or something, right? And this tells us another thing about this individual, that if people are awake and see you, for instance, you're not in the pitch dark attacking them when they're asleep, they probably wouldn't think you were particularly scary, or they would think you were some kind of a fool. So that what you have is a person who uses the cloak of that to feel more powerful than he is. And that tells you a great deal about this individual too. So imagine an individual who feels unwanted, pathetic, has a chip on his shoulder, an extreme temper, is a person who is extremely envious of people who are loved, and likes taking advantage of people who are in a totally compromised position to compensate for feeling sort of pathetic. And I think somewhere in there you'd have this individual. Wouldn't you say, Chris?
I think you nailed it, Gary, as always. And so with that, Dr. Picotto and I thought about messaging the Hispanic community in South Central Los Angeles, which is critical, we believe, because we have a sense that he has some type of root structure and or family structure and or friend structure with inside of that particular region. So I've asked Dylan to step up here tonight and read a message to the Hispanic community. Those of you that know Dylan, you've been with us from day one, but a lot of people, you probably weren't aware that he is fluent in Spanish, and he's going to give a message here to our Spanish friends. So if you know somebody who can hear this information, we're going to clip it, and we would ask you to please share it with inside of the Spanish community there in South Central Los Angeles, as well as any other Spanish neighborhoods or Hispanic neighborhoods in the Maryland area. So let me add Dylan here real fast, and he's going to read the message.
How's it going? Here is the message. Hola a todos. La familia Rachel Morin necesita su ayuda. Rachel fue asesinada por esta persona.
So he's got someone speaking in Spanish. I could have done this for him.
Era madre de 5 hijos. Su bien no debería haber sido arrebatada o perdida. La persona que hizo esto es peligrosa y no ha sido capturada. Si ha visto a esa persona, si sabe.
See, this is like, what a lot of people are thinking, that some people that might know him, believe it or not, may not have seen anything on the news because they are Spanish speaking rather than English speaking. But I mean, if they live in America, they should speak, hopefully, some English, or so you would think. But, it makes me laugh when people sort of say things like that, because they say, oh, well, such and such, they've lived in America for so many years. Surely they speak English, or they've lived in it. Do you know how many expats live here in Spain who don't speak a word of Spanish? I know people who've lived here 20 years and only know how to say gracias and hasta luego or adios. It's not. People, when they move to different countries, quite often they do not immerse themselves in the language if they live in areas where they don't need to. In the area where I live, well, not where I live, to be honest, but in areas not far from where I live, you could go weeks and never speak a word of Spanish. They're like expat communities. They have their English bars. They have their, they only ever speak English. They don't ever go anywhere Spanish. I had a student once who'd never even been to a Spanish supermarket. They only went to the British supermarket, so they didn't have to speak Spanish. It's like, this is how British people live when they live abroad as well. It's just unbelievable. So it's just the same here. These are people that are Spanish speaking, living in America, but they don't feel probably they have to learn to speak English if they live in Spanish communities.
¿Quién es? Por favor, ayuda. Si ha visto a una persona usando este tipo de gorra, por favor, ayuda a esta familia, por favor. hay una recompensa de $35,000. Puede permanecer en el anonimato. Si sabe quién es, llame al 410-836-7788 o envíe un correo electrónico a rmtips@hartfordsheriff.org. Quizás lo haya visto en su barrio, quizás sepa quién es posible que lo haya visto en sus tiendas locales. Hágalo saber.
Anyway, I'm going to fast forward because you won't be able to.
Be a knockoff that maybe Walmart may sell. Okay. So we would ask you to go to the Walmart local near the Maryland area and or the LA area and see if they have film and or an inventory of this type of particular hat. This is the Michael Jordan jump hat, and the label on the.
So this is the hat that he left behind at the scene in Los Angeles, and that's what they got the DNA off, which is what they've matched with the DNA from Rachel Morin. So that's how they know it's the same person. And what he's saying is they think it was bought in the Walmart in the Maryland area. So maybe they've got some CCTV. Do you know what the police had said in that last podcast? Sheriff Gaylor said that they thought he'd been in the area for a few days at least before it happened. So I expect they've got CCTV of him. Now, just before Rachel went on this hike, where she was attacked and sadly murdered, she had been in a Target store. Now, whether he'd seen her in there and followed her to the trail, nothing's been released, but she'd been seen in this Target store. They didn't think that what she bought in the Target store, which they have not released what she bought in the Target store, but they do not believe it's relevant to the case. But it's possible, I suppose, that she might have been spotted there and followed from there. But Jeff did mention about the Target store, but he didn't mention any more than that.
Front obviously is, just something that the kids in the hood, keep on there to make them feel that it's as if it was important. This hat is critical. The police have this hat. So if you look at the sketch they've done with the individual to the right there, take a look at that and see if in fact that individual is familiar to you. If you believe he is, then
this guy's got to be familiar to somebody. Somebody knows this guy, probably more than one person. But like I've said before, are they scared to speak up because maybe they're illegal immigrants also?
Pick up the phone and call either LAPD or call the phone number 410-836-7788 and immediately report that information that you may have. It is a very small, minutia piece of evidence that the police are seeking and the sheriff's department. Please, you could be the difference in that very small piece. If you
okay,
foremost expert on that area right now.
Okay, Michael?
Yeah, where that photo is, it's actually like a bend, where it's kind of goes at a 90-degree angle. In August, there's a lot more foliage. It's completely covered and just, being back into the woods.
Now, this bend that he's talking about, and like he says, when unfortunately Rachel was murdered, it was in the summer, so there would have been a lot more leaves and things. It would have been much more obscured. But I think this is where they think that he may have waited for Rachel to come around the bend.
10 feet, with the weight of the trees and everything would be enough to cover someone. And myself, my wife, and a friend of mine spent a lot of time down there actually running scenarios and, not even having earbuds in or anything, and just 10 feet into the woods, and then myself walking. It very easily someone could overtake me in just a matter of seconds without me knowing it. Me being alert and everything else, and so I mean that's kind of the impression that I have being in there. I do think that it was a blitz attack. I think he was waiting in the woods, kind of right where the picture is showing. There's a log there. I think that he might have been off to the side or something. But right around there, I think that based off of being there and the scenarios that we ran.
So this is Rachel's brother talking, and he's been down there many times trying to reenact the scenario, trying to understand better what happened. And, he seems to think that guy was waiting either for Rachel or just for any woman. We don't know for certain yet, although Sheriff Jeff did say that he thought she had been targeted, that she had been stalked. But until they catch the guy, they won't know for certain. But he was either there waiting for some woman to come along, or he was specifically there waiting for Rachel. And poor Rachel was probably walking along with her earbuds in like she did, a million times. And he'll have just come out of nowhere. Rachel's very tiny, petite. I don't think she was more than 5 foot tall, so she wouldn't have been so difficult to, and she was very slim, very slender, and, she probably wouldn't have been difficult to subdue for a big, strong guy, like that twonk.
It's really I was shocked actually how quickly my friend was able to, basically apprehend me. So that's kind of what I think happened. I think he ran out, blitzed her, and then I don't know if there was an initial, he struck her, and then continued to bring her into the woods, into the tunnel, which may be, I don't know.
I see this. Looks like there's a gap underneath that log that you were talking about, and looks like a trail. Is that a natural path going down towards that ravine there?
To the right, it looks like where Heavenly Water stream goes through. There is a little deer trail there, which wasn't so pronounced. It is more so now, just because of more foot traffic.
Okay.
But yeah.
And the stream, what's the water flow like at that time?
That time, I wasn't in Maryland for the week before. I mean, it can vary, but it's kind of a steady flow, not very deep at all. The deepest is probably, 1.5 feet where there's like holes. Yeah.
Was it going through the tunnel?
Yeah. So it starts on the right side of the photo that's up, and then it goes through the tunnel, and then continues kind of in this opening where it's surrounded by.
Okay, so
of the road that would also help, as I understand it, with concealment. That was the way it was explained on the podcast.
Otherwise, it's quite a long video. It's nearly 3 hours long. So I'm going to fast forward it a little bit because I really wanted to get. Let me see. Let's try here.
Further reasonable explanation.
I guess he learned from the incident where he was, walked out shirtless, and
Yeah, he was layered up.
that he was too nude.
All right, let's have a look. What was he saying there?
Scenarios that you've run through, which is the best circumstance to his advantage, in your opinion?
Well, I would say, to preface, I strongly believe that this was planned. He went there to do this, and I have my reasons. I can't get into, but it was certainly planned. So if it was
So you see, he knows that this brother, I think the police have maybe told him a little bit more. He knows a little bit. He's saying, I've got my reasons for thinking it was planned. So he's probably had a little bit more information from the police but has been told not to mention it, which I think is quite, normal.
Planned, even if it was just something that he was, thinking about, like fantasizing about.
Right.
It was further than that. He planned it. So if he planned it, I don't think that it was something where he goes, okay, as a crow flies, go to a safe place. I would imagine he would plan his escape. So, I mean, his exit would be, for me, there's so many different variables. I couldn't say what his exit would be just because I don't.
Yeah, so the general feeling is that not only would have planned, where he waited on the corner, because I think he's been seen waiting on this corner. That's why they're saying this. There were witnesses saw him waiting. So he was waiting for whatever, whether it was waiting for Rachel or waiting for some woman. And what the guy, Rachel's brother, is saying, Michael, is that he feels, and I expect he's had information to that end as well, that he would have planned his escape, of course. So he won't, I think he did. He had all this meticulously planned. He made his attack near to the tunnel where he dragged Rachel to and murdered her. All of it was planned. So he must have had an escape route planned. He hasn't just sort of, gone, oh God, I'm going to do this, and then come out after murdering Rachel and thought, oh, which way shall I go now? He knew which way he was going. He's gone off. He's been hidden somewhere. Where did he go? Because it's likely he's on. Well, they go on to say, anyway, let's watch. But they go on to say that they think he was on foot as well, because to take a car there, you would have to park in one of the car parks, and you would be on CCTV. Rachel was on CCTV. She was seen parking up. She was seen getting out of her car. They haven't released the CCTV, but they have confirmed that they have it, that they saw Rachel parking up on the cameras. They saw her go off, start off on her walk. So this guy, they haven't seen him on CCTV parking up, etc. So he was on foot. He was on foot, and he will have escaped on foot. Let's have a look here. So I think this is where her first husband. This is Rachel when she was young, with Matthew McMahon, who was her first husband. Oh dear.
Or a body, unfortunately. And I think that you have to understand is how hideous and vicious of a human being we're dealing with here. Now, one thing that I do want to ask about is, it is a shame that, as I understand it, they're only now putting cameras up on that trail. And one of the reasons I think it's a shame is that based on...
Yes, they've now put cameras up on the whole trail. I think I did a video on that as well, and they're AI cameras, whatever that means. So one good thing, I suppose, that's come out of it, it won't save Rachel, bless her. It hasn't saved Rachel, but hopefully for women in the future. So that whole trail now has got cameras, has got AI CCTV, because before that it had CCTV, in the car parks, etc., and those common areas, but not on the trail itself. But it does now have CCTV cameras everywhere.
The behavior of previous similar offenders, there's a pretty high chance that this guy would have gone back to that tunnel after the attack. He probably would have gone back, if even for something as simple as seeing if he left anything there after the body was taken away. After your sister was taken away, your wife, ex-wife, was taken away. But it's also the idea of this very peculiar need for the excitement, risk-taking, the reliving, etc., which is very arousing to this type of person, and particularly if he's comfortable there. What we find is a lot of times in the cover of night or something like that, the person winds up lurking back around. They also sometimes visit burial places of the victim. A very common technique for luring people like this out, for example, is to monitor who it is that attends a memorial service. And we find that very often the offender pops up because because
Mm.
they have a kind of curiosity about it. But that does tend to happen more when the victim is selected for reasons other than just randomness, where you've got a fantasy focus on the victim. But I would not be surprised if this guy has been back to that tunnel. Wouldn't you say, Chris, based on previous offenders?
Yeah, but I think
That's interesting, isn't it? That they're thinking that maybe he's been back to the tunnel because he want to relive the experience. And look at this beautiful picture of Rachel with two of her kids. Do you know? Oh God, please, please, God, honestly, I've still got my my candle going. This candle's going all day, except for when I go to bed. When I remember to light it in the morning, and it goes for various reasons. There's obviously wanting Samantha to be found, Samantha Mutphy, and then there's Anna in Madrid wanting her to be found. There's wanting this twonk to be found because obviously, at least Rachel, her family had her body and they could, give her a send off, give it, pay respects to her, get her home in that way. But this man, oh my God, he so just needs to be caught. Good God. Come on, somebody knows this guy. That's what's so, I think it's even more annoying because this guy is not a bloody ghost. He's not a shadow. He's not, he's a person and somebody somewhere knows him.
6 months into it, he's moved on.
Oh, yes. I mean, immediately after.
Yeah.
In the days, hours or days after the police presence was gone, this is somebody who would have popped back there.
Yeah, I think, and the fact that, and forgive me from day one here. No, where I think he is of this, sense now from the LA thing to Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
This depersonalization for him it's important now that we understand that this guy is not only brutal and vicious and evil as they come, and the Blitz attack of this.
Sorry, I'm just
but the fact,
and that's a photo that my daughter sent me today to be used in the show. She selected 3 photos.
So this is Rachel's daughter, his daughter. So Matthew is Rachel's first husband, and this is the daughter that they have together, and she sent him this photo to use in this program. Good God.
To share with the world. She very much wants the world to know who Rachel was, because it's important for her to have the world see her as the beautiful light that she was in the beginning when all this happened, and nobody knew about this suspect or what happened. There was all kinds of speculation and horrible rumors, and so she wants people to see Rachel. So that's why she selected these photos. So this is clearly a photo that meant a lot to my daughter, our daughter.
Michael, tell us about your sister.
Well, it's really kind of hard to describe a person. I heard something, I think it was on a TV show or something. It's, describe coffee if you've never had coffee before. And, a person is so much more than, coffee. So I can use words that can help describe her. But, it's impossible to, relay who she was as a person. She was just the life of the party, like you instantly, like if you were depressed or in a bad mood, she showed up. Like you wouldn't even think about it. You'd realize, like I would realize, oh, I'm in a good mood now.
Oh.
Like holidays were wicked fun. Like I loved it. Like she was the life of the party. She'd come in.
You can see her ex-husband is very emotional there. I don't know how they're getting through this. I might have to fast forward this because before I know it, I'll be crying and that'll be it.
And, 37 years of, a relationship, and then just having quirky, weird inside jokes, and everything was like sarcasm, so it's just,
well, I wonder because they say he looks, Rachel's first husband, the father of this daughter, he just looks so upset. I wonder what happened. It's a shame, isn't it, that their relationship split up. But things happen, don't they? She was obviously very young when they were together, and sometimes you just get together too young. But right, this is very sad. I am going to fast forward it, not because I don't care about Rachel, but because I'll just get upset. There's another. Oh, look, a beautiful picture. Right. What's this one?
Oh, if we think about, the principle of the mustard seed, just that one mustard seed can build into a very large mustard tree with roots stuck in the ground that are immovable. Her life was the foundation to help us become better people. Here we are, all strangers, talking about the life of Rachel Morin. None of us knew who she was. We've never met her, but we can see in her countenance that the life and
this reminds me a little bit of Nicola Bulley, how sort of the case of Nicola Bulley. I think people got so invested in it, wasn't it, because they could see that she looked like such a good person, a nice person, and people related to her for that reason. And now this is the same with Rachel and the same with Samantha over in Australia. They always seem to be these lovely people. I mean, is it because people do only talk well of people who are, missing or deceased? Or is it genuinely that these things seem to just happen to nice people and you get absolute twonks, just seem to go on forever? Just awful, awful, isn't it? Anyway, I am going to fast forward again. Let's have a look at, what am I looking at now? Oh, this was, we're going to look, he goes on to talk about the house where the other incident happened.
Into this environment to find out.
So this is where the LA thing happened.
Out who this guy is. And how in the world did he know this house existed in LA? How did he know that? Because he knew this home before he knew this light. And his darkness, which it is darkness, is still there. And it's our responsibility, I think, is not only in the mortal existence. Remember, we are eternal beings in a mortal journey. And that principle helps us to understand who this guy is.
Well, Chris, I think we could make a pretty educated guess that whoever this guy is, he didn't have somebody like her in his life. The fact is that this kind of person, everything about the behavior indicates that this is someone who did not understand the concept of being stably loved by somebody.
You know, I don't agree with him there at all. I think this man could well have a family who loves him, adores him, treats him, puts him on a pedestal. Look at Ted Bundy. His mum adored him. His family was, he said himself, was perfect. It's not always somebody who's had a terrible upbringing or never known love or whatever. Some people are dragged up and they never do the terrible things he's done. So I can honestly say I do not agree with him here at all, because I do not believe that. I've seen people who've come from terrible backgrounds and have not done what this twonker's done. And I've seen people who've come from the most privileged backgrounds and they have done things like this twonker's done. So I don't agree with that. I don't believe that he's not necessarily ever known love. If he may well have been too loved, and that might be the people that are hiding him right now, people who love him too much. You know, quite often relatives, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers hide the twonks, you know, that they have in their family dynamics, because they're spoiled little brats, you know. So he may be a spoiled brat. He's not necessarily so. I'm sorry, I don't go with this at all. He's almost, you know, saying, oh, he never had the love that, like that maybe Rachel's children had. Maybe he did, but maybe he's just a twonk. Some people are just bad. Some people have just got that in them. I honestly, the older I get, the more I see that that's true. And the more true crime you look at, the more that you see that's true. Some people are just bad people. And some people who've had terrible, terrible, abusive childhood's backgrounds, they don't turn out like him. So, you know, I'm not having it. I'm sorry, I don't accept that. I do not agree with that.
And as a consequence, the person needs to go out in a nasty and ferocious way and snatch it. And you know, so this is why it's so important to not get gobbled up into the darkness, because you don't realize that people are walking, you know, as Michael Stone used to say, a tightrope between Buddha and Bundy, where every one of us can go one way or the other on the tightrope. And when we look back, we often find that it was people who helped form us, who guided us, who were kind, that said, not that way, this way. You know, and I have no doubt that throughout her life, from everything we're hearing, she had that kind of effect. You know, if we could see life from the other side, we would see that a lot of these little meanderings we do without light, we don't realize how many times we're pushing somebody in the right direction and altering their lives with simple things. I mean, the fact is, Chris, I have interviewed offenders who have told me that there were days that they were planning to do violent things and they didn't that day because somebody was nice to them. And I have also reviewed mass shootings where people go in.
So he's saying there was people who said that they were going to do it one day, but they didn't because someone was nice to them. But then they probably did it the next day. You know, I don't agree with this. I honestly don't. There are some people who never do horrible things. Some people have shit days where people are horrible to them, call them names. You know, the most horrible things happen to him. They still don't go out and do this. So I'm going to fast forward that a little, because I don't want to get annoyed with him, because he obviously knows what he's talking about. But I feel like he's like almost saying that this guy did it because nobody was nice to him that day. Sorry, no, I nearly swore then. I'm not swearing, but no. The guy did it because he's a twonk, because he does it. He's a psychopath who doesn't care about other people's feelings. Didn't care about her 5 children. He didn't care about her. He didn't care about anything except his own wants, his own needs. And I'm sorry, a lot of people that are abused when they're young. They turn out to be lovely, empathetic people through that abuse, not because they don't turn out to be like him. He's got a lack of empathy. You know, he didn't do it that day because somebody was nice to them. But what about the next day or the day after? Good God, what about people who, Do you know what? Do you imagine if any time that somebody wasn't nice to you, you went out and did something and like, oh, well, somebody wasn't nice to me today, so bugger off. People, you just get, sometimes you have the worst day in the world, but you still don't go out and do that.
Rest of things, and it really makes a difference in their life if someone gives a flying leap about
In America is significant. Please share it down there.
Yeah, and there's something I wanted to say here. That premio means prize, not reward. It should be recompensa. You know, so I don't know who translated this poster, but premio is not the right word to put on there because it looks like it's saying prize. Whereas it should be recompensa, which is reward. But anyway, that's totally by the by. So they had all the posters made up in Spanish as well.
If you have any connections with Telemundo or any type of, media in, right. And if that's the case, see right there's the
serial killer in New York. And because those are the people that you would expect to know him. I mean, wouldn't you say, Chris, this guy, there's a strong, aggressive sexual quality to these offenses, and there must have been years if he's feeling pathetic and small.
So this is when he was coming out of that home. You know, you see them slamming the door after them, but he says something to them as he comes out. He's probably saying to them, oh, don't ring the police. You won't ring the police, will you? Or something along those lines. And then he walks away as casually as anything, with his shirt in his hands. He's left his cap, of course, forgotten his cap. And then he goes around the back and, yeah, I remember, David, we watched that video when he was like stretching, wasn't he? And some woman was coming through the path and she seemed to recognize him. But they are saying now that he did not know these people. Maybe he knew that area. You know, maybe she was someone from I don't know if it's an apartment complex or whatever it is, but they're saying that he did not know that actual family. That's what the sheriff said, but we won't find out all the details till he's finally caught.
Small, that he would have probably been involved with sex workers. It's pretty typical.
Yeah, he's going to build up to just even breaking into feeling comfortable enough to get into this house. He's had some experience with, we used to call them Bs. 647B is the penal code for sex workers. So now one thing I want to point out to the public, and it would be really interesting for somebody to who's got a lot more skill than me, but I am still not convinced this isn't some type of tattoo or ink work over here on his right arm. Okay? I mean, you can barely see it when he comes out of that room. And let me go back here for a minute.
Chris, don't you think that if they saw him without a shirt, they would have described?
Well, I'm sure the victims may or may not. It all depends, right, Gary? I mean, they're caught up in the moment. The fight's going on right there. You can see kind of the discoloration on his arm here as he's coming.
Can you see a tattoo? I think he must mean this here. Is it a tattoo? I personally didn't notice a tattoo, but it could be, I suppose. But a tattoo has not been mentioned. Now, they were all fighting. He assaulted all those people in that house. You know, he assaulted them. So there was a fight. There was shouting. There was yelling. It was an actual argument, fight that was going on. Although he comes out and he looks so calm, it turns out that he actually broke in while they were all sleeping. He went into the young girl's bedroom, and it was only because the others went in there and caught him in there that nothing terrible happened to that girl. I don't know if that's a tattoo or a shadow. It could be a tattoo. It does seem strange to me if he's got no tattoos.
Out, but he moves it to see. Yeah. You can just barely see it look like something. I can't tell personally if it's a shadow, if it's a tattoo. I'm not sure in full transparency here.
Yeah, it's too fast. I know what you mean. It looks almost
Yeah,
like it
you
could be some
can't
kind of
make
shat,
out.
like
Well, I couldn't
Umbra,
make
you know,
out
that's
a
on
tattoo,
the arm.
yes.
Right. And if that's the case, see, right there's a better shot of it.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're talking about. I think
Is it a
the jury's
shadow?
out on what that is, but there is
Yeah,
something.
and I mean, Mike, do you guys see that, or am I seeing something that I shouldn't be seeing?
Yeah, no, I see it as well. Can't tell what it is.
Yeah.
That she's still, you know, physically she's not with us, but spiritually she's with us. She's here, and she's going to help solve this case. I personally believe that. I've worked up with that and the way our system operates. And then, of course, at some point, if there's a conviction, then you'll have your opportunity in the impact statement. And that's when you can let that individual know. And then from there, you know, cut him loose. Let the system deal with him. You know, on the other side, even, you know,
Sorry, I'm just.
The more we expose people to this image, is what I hope we're doing. Parallel, moving along the same thought track, or, you know, that it was almost like an attempt to make sure that we. My guess is that we're also going to.
I must admit, he's talking a lot. I'd like to hear these talk more about Rachel, but anyway, never mind.
Find that there was a lot of burglary. I think.
I'd be very grateful for that.
very well. Yeah, done. Can you guys do me a favor? Ask the SO to check the RN. It's called RN number on the label. Okay.
I'm just going to move.
I guess validating some of the thoughts that I may have, when I wasn't in a good space, is helpful. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you guys, doing this and continuing to have my sister's name out there. Both Matt and I are, incredibly grateful. And
yeah, anytime. Yes. And don't continue to overthink it, Michael. Seriously, brother. Yeah. It's just, this is that guy, like Gary just said, this guy's the guy that you're going to just walk past him and go, yeah, whatever. That's that guy. That's who he is. And this is why he's a coward, and why he chose to conceal himself and attack the way he did to your sister. Okay. So, I think you're on 1,000%. When you see this guy live one day, and you will, okay, you're gonna realize that he's pathetic. Yes. Because that's what he is. He's not, he's not like an intellect of any way, shape, or form. He's like Dr. Picotto said, he's cunning. Okay? And right now he's lucky, okay? But he's going to run out of luck. And the PD, I guarantee you, is going to be right on him. And you're going to get that.
Yeah, I think he's right. He's clever. The guy, he won't be, well, I don't think he'd be clever sort of intellectually, but he's clever enough. He's cunning like a fox. You know what he reminded me of? It was like a troll, like in the old sort of stories of him in that tunnel. You could imagine him lurking in that tunnel like a troll, like internet trolls do. Few YouTubers do that, don't they? They lurk in their little tunnels, like waiting for the moment to come out and attack. And that's it. He's revolting. He's horrible. So, but he's like, but he is cunning. So he's not intelligent or in an intellectual way. We don't think. I mean, who knows? He could be. We just don't know. But he's clever, like a fox is clever, or like any predator is clever. He's lurking in that tunnel. Like what was the the old sort of fairy story of the troll that hides under the bridge? That's what he reminds me of. And then he came out, he took Rachel, who's very special, very special light person. And it's almost like the devil coming out and taking somebody good. So that's what he's like. He's like the troll that hides under the bridge. Awful, like was it the Billy Goat's Gruff or whatever, when the troll wouldn't let them cross? That's what he reminds me of. He's there lurking, and unfortunately he's probably still out there lurking, but in a different place, waiting for some other poor unsuspecting woman to bloody walk past him. And he's like a spider, like, oh, just awful, just living in the shadows and coming out and taking somebody from the light into his sort of lair where he's lurking. Oh my God. You just, please God, let this man be caught.
Phone call, just like you did, even today, Matthew. Hey, by the way, we're dropping the sketch today. Okay. And you go, what is that? What's going on here? Okay. I thought we were supposed to know about this stuff. Well, no, that's one of those cards you keep tucked here. And then all of a sudden, you put it out into the public, because once it's out in the public, it's here. It belongs here. Okay. And they've got a lot more behind the curtains, and once those curtains are open, which they'll ultimately be open in two places. The first one will be the interview room with the suspect. And then the second one will be the courtroom with the media, with the public. Okay. But in that interview, you got to get the guy to tell you why he did what he did. And that's why they hold stuff so close to the chest. But every once in a while, you can push one of those buttons and see the rocket ship go up and go, whoa.
Well, I will forewarn Michael and Matthew that if this offender is anything like the ones who came before him, this subtype, this is not somebody that's going to elicit a great deal of sympathy in a courtroom. This is a person who is going to make you want to leap out of the chair and bash his head in. The fact is, I would expect a cold, reptilian, callous person who dehumanizes the victims when talking about them, and is sort of getting off on the idea that people have had their hearts broken because now they feel like he does. And I think that when that is happening, it's going to take every fiber of your being to control yourselves, because it's, you understand, Chris, you've seen this with your own eyes. And I just kind of think you got to prepare yourself emotionally, spiritually, psychologically for that moment, because I'm telling you, this is not.
No, I know what you're saying, but I honestly think when this guy's caught, you could see how he was saying something to whoever that was closing the door behind him. If he's a psychopath, and there's been some, I think, a bit, it's not because he's an illegal immigrant or because he's a certain religion, or he's a psychopath. There's psychopaths in all walks of the world, don't matter what religion it is, what race someone is. There's loads of psychopaths. All American psychopaths like Ted Bundy or Dennis Rader, or any serial killer that's been an American psychopath. It's not just immigrants. This guy is a psychopath or a sociopath, and when he's caught, I reckon he will try and turn on the charm. He was trying to turn on the charm there as he was coming out of that house. He's probably charmed his family. Probably loads of people think the sun shines out of him, because he'll be able to do that. He'll be able to turn from being, your worst nightmare to like the nicest, he's probably got loads of different girlfriends. Women probably fall all over him, because he'll have that way. That's the feeling I get about him. He's one of those sort of people. He's got a black mind. He's black inside. I mean dark black. It's like, it's not because of his race or his religion or his wherever he comes from. It's because he's a psychopath or a sociopath. He could be from anywhere. He's just made wrong up here. And that will never change. And he will carry on doing it. I can't believe that he hasn't done it already. He must have done. He's not going to go, all this time without doing anything. He can't help himself. He just cannot help himself unless he's just, unless he is being protected somewhere, or he's gone to another country and he's doing it there. But it's got something wrong with him. And I don't think that's anything to do with where he comes from. He'd be that wherever he was.
The kind of guy that's going to shed tears and tell you, Mommy didn't love me. This is going to be a ferocious person. And also, Chris, I just kind of think it's going to be very cathartic to have the opportunity to do the statement. But I can imagine it going in one ear and out the other with this kind of offender. And that's the other thing. Those statements, don't ever fantasize that it's doing anything for them. It's for you. It's for Rachel that you're going to do that. It's to dignify her, and he's going to have to sit there and hear it in shackles. But it's just going in one ear and out the other. And just say, Chris, I mean, it's going to take a lot of preparation. I don't envy you the task. But as I said to you yesterday, Matthew, and I hope it touched you when I said it, you've really got to sit there and think to yourself, what would my sister tell me to do right now? How would she feel right now? And I think there would be something along the lines of, let's just get to the justice and get this guy, away, and don't, and that's it. Don't give him any more attention. Don't sink to his level, and just tuck him away, and let's move on with our lives. And I think you got to do it for her. That's, I mean, when you said, Chris, that's because the person can't be at peace if you're not.
No.
If a person loves you, they're looking at you thinking, how am I supposed to be at rest if you're not at peace? And so the most loving thing you could do for her, I think, is to show her that you are, and now it's okay to kind of slip into the warm bath of, eternity.
There's an old saying that stick to it till it sticks to you.
Right.
And no man got to the top of the mountain by falling there. Okay. So, you guys, you're persistent, stay with it. God bless you. Our prayers are going to be with you and your families. And you have a platform here 24/7, 365. Matt has my number. I'll share it with you, Michael. And feel free. Again, I always tell people, if you want to throw rocks at 3 a.m, just hit me.
And Chris, don't you foresee that we'll all be back here when the case is
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I think you guys will be back here, and then we'll all,
I think if we
Okay, it's more or less finished now. So yeah. Now it's interesting to get an idea from of the sort of the trail. This guy obviously knew that area. Every day that passes, it's like the Samantha Mutphy case. Every day that passes, you think there's going to be some news, and then there's no news, and then you're waiting, and you know that the police are working behind the scenes, and you're hoping that something's going on and something's going to come out, transpire, and then nothing does. And anyway, but we're going to follow these cases through to the end, or I hopefully you'll all follow them through with me, because I just the Rachel Morin case in particular, I just literally remember sort of starting covering it more or less as soon as it happened last August, and intermittently, I've been covering it whenever there's been any news. And of course, Samantha Mutphy is a more recent case that you keep thinking that something's going to sort of transpire soon. Now, I've just had a look at to see if there's any news about Samantha Mutphy. I can't see any news at the moment. It's early morning there in Australia. Something might transpire as the day goes on. I also wanted to give you a little tiny update on the Anna Knežević case. As you know, this is a case in Spain, a lady that's gone missing in Spain. She's an American citizen, a Colombian national, and she'd gone to Madrid in Spain to, she's separated from her husband. They're having what he described as not an acrimonious divorce, but then now it turns out that actually from messages from a friend, etc., it is an acrimonious divorce. But, you know, who knows? Anyway, she went to live in Spain. She's 40 years old, very attractive, building a new life for herself, keeping in touch with her friends, and then suddenly disappeared. And then it transpired that about half an hour before she disappeared, somebody had gone into her apartment complex. A man in a crash helmet had gone into her apartment complex and spray painted out the CCTV that was in the hall or the vestibule, you know, and also sprayed out the door cam on her doorbell that had been black spray painted as well. So nobody could see who this man was because he had a black crash helmet on. Could only see his eyes. And then she disappeared, and then a couple of texts were received by her friends and her family, one in Spanish, one in English, both looking like they had been done on Google Translate, being like a sort of a strange English and a strange Spanish, saying that she'd met some random guy on the street, gone off with him for a couple of weeks to a summer house near Madrid. She'd made a connection with him on the street, and the internet might not be very good, so virtually don't bother contacting me. And that was it. And then she's never been seen again. She was supposed to meet a friend the following Monday to go to Barcelona. She was supposed to meet her at the train station in Madrid, go to Barcelona with her friend. She never turned up. Anyway, we've been looking at that case, and just a little bit of an update that I've got, and I sound like Michael now. I can't tell you everything, but put it this way, the FBI are involved in that case, and the Spanish police have made it an absolute priority, and there are things happening in that case, but none of it can be talked about at the moment. So, you know, it's just like, you know what it's like when there's an investigation going on, you can't talk about the ins and outs. I mean, I'm not trying to say that I know all the ins and outs of everything. I don't. I do know a little bit, but I can't even talk about the little bit that I know. But just to let you know that things are happening, because for quite a long time, I think it felt like nothing was happening in Anna's case, because the judge, when the police asked for a search warrant and permission, because in Spain everything has to go through a judge. You know, the judge has to give permission. It's not the police who decide. They don't go to the top police or the district attorney. They go to a judge who says, you know, whether they can have a search warrant or not. And initially, the judge was reluctant to give a search warrant because he said that, or he or she said, there was not enough proof that she had not gone missing of her own accord. And so they would not give permission to check her phone data, this, that, and the other. Anyway, you know, I don't know, as I say, I don't know the ins and outs, but there have been developments and there is progress. Let's put it that way. God knows when we'll ever get to know what the progress is, because if you think, you know, police forces are secretive in other countries, they're very, very secretive in Spain. You can never get any information until, they probably won't get any information until, you know, something actually, you know, someone's actually arrested. There won't be any, and when I say none, I mean none. You know, like they don't give out the nuggets of information like they've been given out in Australia, you know, which I still feel are like they're almost doing that to try and rattle someone, to try and sort of give out little bits of information here and there and see if somebody gets frightened enough into making a move that they shouldn't. You won't get that in Spain. It'll all be very secretive, but yeah. Night, night, Chumba. I'm finishing now anyway, so. Yeah. I do feel that within a couple of days, I do feel that Samantha's body will be found soon. I hope so anyway, for her children, which sounds awful. I'd like to say I hope that Samantha is found, and there's still an outside chance she might be being held captive somewhere for a ransom demand. You know, there may have been a ransom demand that we don't know about. You know, we have to look on these things with a positive light. You know, obviously her and her husband, Samantha, now I'm talking about Samantha Mutphy, but the same with Anna Knežević from Spain. You know, she's like, you know, they've got a successful business. There is money there. So it could be a kidnap attempt. That's the best case scenario, isn't it? That somebody's kidnapped Samantha, keeping her hostage. Maybe they have released a kidnap demand. Maybe she is still in this world. But anyway, whatever's going on, let's hope that she's found soon for the family. Okay, so night, and I will remember to live and love carefully, wisely. I'll see you really soon in the next video. Take care, and any information that I get about any of these cases that we've been covering, I will be on to let you know about it. Thank you so much, and until I see you again, may your God be with you, or go with you. Yeah. Oh, and don't forget to put your fingerprint on the like button. Night, night.